Hi friends, it's Valerie. Welcome back to this week's What's for Dinner. If you are new here, I would love if you would hit that subscribe button and join my YouTube family. And don't forget to leave a like or comment down below because it really does help my channel. I've got some yummy meals for you this week. We brought back a favorite of ours that I made a long time ago, and it was Meatball Sub Casserole. That was delicious as always. And then I have a new favorite, and it is like for Instant Pot meals, and it's an Instant Pot, like Italian chicken and rice. It was really good. I really enjoyed that a lot. I love a good Instant Pot meal that's kind of like just throw it together. But if you don't have an Instant Pot, do not worry, because this recipe that I will have linked for you does give instructions for how to make it without an Instant Pot. But other than that, let's just get started. On this night, I was just trying to use up some things that I had to basically just use up. So I had some croissants that I needed to use, as well as some russet potatoes and strawberries. So serve those as sides. I made some air fryer fries, and I made some egg salad to put on the croissants. This was delicious. I love egg salad. It's such a simple but, really good thing that we really enjoy. I will leave a link in the description box down below to the recipe that I use for the egg salad. I'm starting this off by taking my Dutch oven and over low heat. You can use any pot that you have, and then I am adding in 2 tablespoons of butter and letting that melt. Then I'm adding in the 2 yellow onions that I thinly sliced. I cut them in half and then I just thinly sliced them. I'm also adding about 2 cloves worth of minced garlic, it asked for 2 teaspoons of fresh thyme. I didn't have any fresh thyme, so I did add 1 teaspoon of dried thyme and then 1 bay leaf. I gave that all a quick stir to get all that coated in the butter. And you are literally going to let this sit on low for 35 minutes on your stove. This is going to caramelize your onions nice and slow. Once those were caramelized, I discarded the bay leaf. This recipe uses cooking wine, and I don't really use wine when cooking, so I substituted it for a 1/4 cup of chicken broth, and I'm just going to deglaze the pan with that, make sure to scrape up all those brown bits from the bottom. And then I'm adding in 2 teaspoons of beef bouillon paste, and I did add in 2 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce at this point as well, but apparently I didn't get a clip of that. And then just stir that all together to combine it. Again, I didn't get a clip of that as well. But then you can either set this aside in the pot, or like me, I chose not to use a separate pot for this and just put them on a plate. And then I'm using the same Dutch oven, and to that I'm adding in a stick of butter, which is 8 tablespoons of butter, and I'm letting that melt. And once it melts, I will go ahead and whisk in a 1/2 cup of flour. And I consistently whisked this together until it was a nice light golden brown. This is going to be the roux to our, cheese sauce that we're going to be using for the mac and cheese. Now, the recipe that I have linked for you will tell you to warm the milk in a pot, in a sauce pot. I didn't do that. I just measured it out in a glass measuring cup, and then I popped that into the microwave and got it warm. And then once it was warm, I slowly whisked that milk into our roux mixture here. And I'm just doing a little at a time and whisking to avoid any lumps. And I'm going to keep whisking this constantly for about 2 minutes until it's thick enough to coat the back of a spoon. Next, reduce the heat to medium and stir in 2 cups of shredded sharp cheddar cheese. I like to do it, again, a little bit at a time. This is, for me, just making sure that my sauce stays nice and smooth. And yeah, I just kept stirring and stirring until it was melted. I did 1 cheese at a time as well. So I did this cheddar first, and then once I thought it was smooth enough and melted, I did the same thing with mozzarella cheese. My mozzarella cheese was bagged though, so it does have that coating on the outside, even though I am using a rustic cut, which is a thicker cut, so there should be less of that coating. But anyways, stirring in 3 cups of that. Same process, slowly until it's all melted. I didn't have any problem with any texture in this. But season that to your liking with some salt and pepper. Salt really brought out those tastes of the cheeses. I kept tasting it and adding more salt. It was really good. It really enhanced that cheese flavor. And then we just, of course, love pepper. So I added some there, but added more later. And then I'm adding in 1 pound of cooked pasta shells. I am using a medium pasta shell for this. If you have small, that could work. If you only have a macaroni noodle, just do whatever you have. It will work out. Just make sure you cook them to al dente. You wouldn't want these to get, small shells to get, too mushy. And I added that in, mix it all together with the cheese sauce. Then I am taking the onion mixture and I'm just going to fold that in. And that's it. It was really easy. and super delicious. I am a huge fan of mac and cheese, and this was a nice twist on it. It was just really savory, and I paired this with some air fried asparagus, and then I grilled up a piece of chicken, and this was a really amazing meal. I'm starting off by placing a teaspoon or so of oil in the bottom of my Instant Pot that is on the saute function, and then I'm adding in one medium diced up onion. I am stirring that to get it coated with the oil. We're going to let that saute a little bit, and then I'm adding in some garlic, about 3 cloves worth of just minced garlic. I'm also stirring that together, and I'm going to let these continue to just saute. Now, I thought mine was going to start burning, so I added in 1 cup of water. It was cold water, so that it would cool it down quickly, because you're going to need chicken broth. So if you just have chicken broth, then you can add that in instead if you were in the same situation that I am. But I just added the water, and then I added in a teaspoon of the Better Than Bouillon chicken base to make that chicken broth. And then you'll need some roasted red peppers. I have these ones here that are in some garlic, like roasted garlic, so I just diced that up. You need a cup's worth. This was a 7-ounce jar. It was close enough, and I added those diced roasted peppers in there, and I also added in 1 cup of rinsed and drained long grain rice, as well as a tablespoon of lemon juice and a tablespoon of Italian seasoning, and then a teaspoon each of salt and pepper. Next, I'm adding in 1 pound of diced up boneless skinless chicken breast into some bite-sized pieces. The recipe does call for 1.5 pounds. I just used a pound, and it was perfect for me. I actually wouldn't have liked it with too much chicken to like rice ratio. In fact, I would have liked a little bit more of a rice ratio, so maybe next time I'll add a little bit of additional rice and broth to do that, so that I'll enjoy it a little bit more, because I really liked this meal. But we're going to just stir that all together and place the lid on the Instant Pot, and we're going to cook this on high pressure for 10 minutes. Once it's done, we'll do a quick release of pressure, and then add in 1 cup of frozen peas, and then a half a cup of Parmesan cheese. Mine was like a bagged shredded kind, so I just kind of tried to break that up in my hands a little bit, and just stir that together. And then you're going to place the lid back on top of that. Now, they say to steam that for a couple minutes. They don't specify just like with the lid on or just using the actual steam feature. I tried it using the steam feature. It was fine. You just really need to melt the cheese, and the peas get softened really easily. I cut up some fresh parsley and put it on top. I served it with a Caesar salad on the side and a piece of garlic bread. This is now one of my new favorite like Instant Pot meals. So I'm a huge fan of my Instant Pot, but mostly for when I just like, I'm always forgetting to pull chicken out and things like that, and you can always do a quick meal in the Instant Pot. But not all of them are always my favorite, but I really, really enjoyed the flavors that were in this one. I'm starting this off by taking 1 pound of ground beef, and I'm cooking that up in a skillet over medium-high heat with a dab of butter. I'm assuming this is just flavor purposes. Obviously, my meat has plenty of grease, but I'm still following the directions on the recipe because I want to like try this out the way they recommend it. So I just use my meat chopping tool to break that up as fine as you like it, and then go ahead and season that with a teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of pepper. And then it calls for some Thousand Island dressing, but I don't have any of that, so I made some. I just eyeballed some mayonnaise, ketchup, a little bit of mustard, and a little bit of relish to make about 3/4 cups worth. Now I was left with a little bit extra, so I added that in lieu of the 1/4 cup of mayonnaise that they also call for mixing with the meat. I just found that unnecessary. I don't know why I'd want a whole bunch more mayonnaise in there. But I just used the sauce. In fact, it would have more flavor, and it still has the extra mayonnaise in it as well. So stir that all until it's all combined. Then add in 1 cup of yellow diced onions and a half a cup of diced up pickles. I used the Clausen pickles. I really like those, and I cut up more than the half a cup that it recommended. Just whatever I cut up, I put in there. It was a little bit more than half a cup. I stirred that all together. We put the heat to low. And you can toast your buns at this time at 400 degrees for about 4 to 6 minutes, just depending on how toasted that you want them. I like mine just lightly toasted, so I did about 3 to 4 minutes for that. Then add in 1 cup of shredded cheddar cheese to your beef mixture. Just stir that in. You're going to let this it's going to melt. It's still on low, so it'll melt in while your buns are toasting up. And then you can add as much or as little shredded lettuce as your heart desires here. I like some lettuce, so I placed the bun, the meat mixture, some lettuce. Then I put the top bun on top. I made some air fried just potato wedges, and this was a pretty good meal. I didn't know what to expect with this because I'm not a huge fan of sloppy joes. Pretty much, but I do like the flavors that it had that were that Big Mac style flavor. That Thousand Island sauce, I actually recommend that if you can, just find a recipe that you can mix your own together. It's pretty easy and I find it to be more tasty. Okay, so I'm starting off with a 16-ounce French loaf, and I'm cutting it into 1-inch slices. I never really use the ends, but actually, I never use the whole French bread. It's never, it's always been too much, so I'm not sure. I always use like about 7 slices or so, 7 to 8. It just depends on, the size of your loaf, like the shape of it or whatnot. But I cut up those, and then I took my 9x13 baking dish. And if you want to use the whole loaf, maybe use a bigger baking dish. And then I greased it a little and I just tried to puzzle those in there to kind of fit them the best that I could. Even at one point I broke one apart in half with my hands and just kind of placed it into some of those smaller gaps that were there. Just do your best with that. In the end, it's not really fully going to matter. But if you want to use up the whole bread, like I said, just make sure you use a bigger dish because it's never been big enough for the whole loaf. And maybe if you needed to, you could also cut them thicker than the 1 inch that it recommends. Now, my camera stops recording recently a lot, so I mixed together the cream cheese and the Italian seasoning. Now, it calls for 12 ounces of cream cheese, which is a brick and a half. I only had 1 brick of 8 ounces, so I mixed that with the 1.5 teaspoons of Italian seasoning, and then I smoothed that all along the top of my bread, and then you're taking 1 pound of frozen meatballs that have been thawed. I cut them into some bite-sized pieces. That's your preference, however you like it. Leave them whole, whatever you want, and I put that all over the top of that. I'm trying to cover all the surface of that. Now, if you're not a big meatball fan and you like just a nice sauce, like a meat sauce, and you just have ground beef or Italian sausage in it, I think that would work just as amazing. So just do that and then pour 124-ounce jar of sauce on top of that. Again, if you're using a meat mixture and it's already combined, just scoop it all on top of your cream cheese mixture. I think that will be perfectly fine. Next, take 2 cups of shredded mozzarella cheese and just sprinkle that all over the top of your pasta sauce. If you like another cheese, you can go ahead and do that. Maybe some Parmesan on top of this would be really, really good. A mixture of that. I sometimes get the mozzarella and provolone blend. I've really enjoyed that on this as well. I also like to sprinkle some dried parsley on the top. It's just for look. I always like the way that looks. And bake that for 25 to 30 minutes at 375 degrees till your cheese is melted. That's what it looks like when it comes out. I served this just with a Caesar salad. Just kept it really easy because this meal is pretty easy, but it does not lack in flavor. I can tell you that. It is so delicious. Something about that cream cheese mixture is just so good. I keep telling myself next time to make sure that I try it with the extra cream cheese that it calls for, because I just bet that has to make it even more amazing. But we really, really enjoy this. We always get rave reviews on this one, so I hope that you enjoy it as much as we do. On this night, I finally got my dim sum craving in because I have been really, really wanting dim sum. In fact, I mostly wanted the hagao, but there were many other things that we tried and were super delicious. We went to this place called Elite Restaurant, and it was just so good. It definitely did not disappoint. A little on the pricey side, but it was super good. Thanks so much for watching, friends. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that little bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. And I hope you all are having a great day.